middle of the second chapter. Very, very exciting chapter. A lot of interesting discussions happening here. There was a question about, let me just share my screen. There was a question about the last verse we discussed yesterday. Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna. My friend Srihari asked this question about, on the one hand, he's saying Nistraigunyo Bhava. So be beyond the three gunas. And in the third line, he says Nitya Sattva Sthaha. Always be established in Sattva. So does this not contradict each other? It's a very, very pertinent question, and something that will probably strike many of you. In the second line, he's saying go beyond the three gunas, and in the third line, he's saying always be established in Sattva. So if you have any confusion, you are not at fault. The verse itself is a bit confusing. So it's a good thing that you brought this up. Like I mentioned yesterday, the Sankhya school of philosophy has observed that human beings primarily have these three predominant traits or gunas. We will take up this discussion of the gunas in greater detail, especially starting from chapter 14. So you will understand this much better when we study that. But the basic concept is that there is one which is kind of benign goodness and energy, which is sattva, vigor. There is a rajas, which is relentless activity, constantly trying to do things. And there is tamas, which is deluded lethargy. At any given point of time, one of these dominates over the other. The constant attempt is to try and establish oneself in sattva, because sattva is a better state of being. We are trying to go to the, trying to be at the better level. But the objective is to go beyond the three gunas. So like when you are in, say, 10th standard, you want to try and be at the top of your class, right? So your objective is to try and do all your homework on time, and you want to, be the first to come into the class and be most diligent and everything. But that is during the time you are there. The objective is to go beyond the 10th grade at the end of the year with the flying colors. So the objective is not to always be first in 10th standard, because that will be a stagnation. So in our material thing, when we don't have that perfect understanding and wisdom, what is prescribed for everybody who is on the path to understanding the ultimate is as much as possible to be in sattva. But the objective is to go beyond these three gunas, because a realized person does not feel the need to do some great activity to change the world, or doesn't feel the need to acquire something new, doesn't have the curiosity to learn some new discipline. They're completely fulfilled, and any action that they do becomes an action for loka sangraha. But till we reach that stage, so let's look at this as the ideal state is to go beyond the gunas. Until we can reach that ideal state, or in the path to reach that ideal state, then the suggestions that he gives is, one is to go to be free from the dualities. That is also, if you can be free from dualities, you are just one step away from going beyond the gunas. If you are always established in sattva, you are just one step away from going beyond the gunas. Similarly, if you are able to detach from the yoga and kshema, acquiring new things and holding and protecting old things, if you can go beyond that, then you are just one step away from going beyond the gunas. So like this, these can be seen as a preparatory stages to reach that. Ultimately, we want to go beyond the three gunas. So I hope that there's some clarity in this verse. As we go forward, you will definitely these things will become clearer. So let us go to the first verse of today, which is a beautiful imagery. Yavan artha udapane sarvata samplutodake tavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijanataha. So as much use there is for a a well of water, when there is a flood and water is flowing freely everywhere, that much use there is for the Vedas when it comes to somebody who has realized the ultimate. So, in other words, a simple way of looking at it is, what is the use of a well when there is a flood and waters flowing freely everywhere? What is the use of all the Vedas for one who has realized Brahman, who has realized the ultimate truth? What is the use of Veda? Yeah. It's your to understand, like you have to do the Adhyahara. Yeah. Yavan Artha. What is the purpose? What is the meaning? What is the use? Udapane Tavan Sarvata Samplutodake Tatha Vijanatah Brahmanasya Sarveshu Vedeshu Tavan Brahmani. That's to be again understood. So Yavan Artha Udapane. Udapane is like a well, a small body of water. What is use of a small body of water when there is a huge flood? Anywhere water is available everywhere. You don't have to have a certain well. But when there is no flood, this well water is the one which will save us. It is the very, very important thing. But when there is a flood, this well water is useless, or it is superfluous, not useless, it's superfluous, because water is flowing freely everywhere. Similarly, the Vedas are normally very useful for everybody, but for somebody who has realized the ultimate truth, who has understood Brahman, who has become one with Brahman, who has realized the final thing, these Vedas are superfluous because his whatever he utters will be jnana. Whatever his way of life will be bhakti. His way of working will be karma yoga. So, for a realized person, all these things are superfluous. Um, this is a very straightforward shloka, but it has a lot of implications to the way in which Sanatana Dharma looks at the world. Because there is no other, to my knowledge, no other religion, no other school of thought which is so bold as to keep aside its own fundamental scriptures when somebody has realized the highest thing. So here in the Sanatana Dharma tradition, it is not just that the texts are important. Of course, Vedas are important for anybody who wants to improve their quality of life and they want to lead a dharmic life. Veda and all the other literature which we discussed in the earlier class, the various pratis, all these texts, whatever we have, they are very, very helpful because they are the collected wisdom of the past. But in our tradition, it is very clear that the texts are only useful until you reach the level of Brahmajnana, until you reach the highest level. Once you are a realized person, all these things become superfluous. So, in addition to having such a wonderful body of scriptural text, we also have the strong notion of going beyond the text. So, like I said, if you are in a 10th standard, your 10th standard textbook is very important. So you have all this fantastic study material for your preparation for 10th standard or 12th or for IIT, JEE, whatever. The idea is at the end of that period of time, after all the study, you should discard that. If you are holding on to the same text for long time, that means you are not progressing. So that's why in our tradition we have a graded instruction. So for beginners we have great works, like Bhagavad Gita or Viveka Chudamani or these kind of Bhajagovindam. All these works are there. And slowly there's a gradation, and finally we go to very, very works like Upanishads. And once somebody has really understood it, then there is a possibility to go beyond all these things. And the beauty of our tradition is start from the earliest basic text, like even some simple stotra kavyas that we teach the children, all the way up to Upanishads. At any point of time, there can be a spark and somebody can realize the highest thing. It is not that you have to go through all this. So here we see that Krishna he's not putting down the Vedas. In many places in the Bhagavad Gita itself, he has great regard for the Vedas. He considers himself as one of the Veda, among the Vedas, he says, I am the Sama Veda. We will see that. So, like this, he has great regard for Veda. He, in the 16th Adhyaya, he says, many places, he says, the words of the wise, the scriptures will guide you and all that. But here, we see the importance of realizing that the text is not everything. We have to go beyond that. And once somebody has reached that stage, these become superfluous. So it is something as any rational person will love this verse. A person who is a man of science, a person who is a free thinker will rejoice seeing such a verse in a book of religion. So let us repeat this. Yavan artha udapane. Srinidhi. I think you are muted. Can you unmute? Okay. I'm asking to Shilpa, can we make Srinidhi Ramchandra the co-host?
He is the co-host. He unmute himself, but went back on mute. I can recite till he figures it out.
Okay, there seem to be some technical bug. So maybe Shilpa can repeat, and Srinidhi, we can ask him to do it tomorrow another time. Okay. Yavan artha udapane.
Yavan artha udapane.
Sarvatah samplutodake.
Sarvatah samplutodake.
Tavan sarveshu vedeshu.
Tavan sarveshu vedeshu.
Brahmanasya vijanataha.
Brahmanasya vijanataha.
Next, we come to the most celebrated shloka of the Bhagavad Gita. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala hetur bhurmate sangostva karmani. It is the most popular shloka of the Gita and perhaps the most misunderstood shloka of the Gita. And the culprit is one word. In all this thing, the culprit is just one word. So we will come to that. We will first see the meaning. So what he's saying is, you can control only your actions. You can't control the results of your actions. Therefore, the expected results should not motivate you to action. At the same time, don't be lazy. Don't shirk away from your work. Karmani eva te adhikaraha. Phaleshu kadachana ma bhut. Karma phala hetuhu ma bhuhu. Akarmani te sangaha ma astu. So the culprit word here is this word called adhikara. Now adhikara has multiple meanings. Okay, adhikara means right. Adhikara means power. Adhikara means control, and so on. Now this a lot of people translate this verse as you have a right only to work. You don't have a right to get the results. Now, this really doesn't make sense. And when we were discussing about when this book was being translated, Dr. Sri Krishna and me were discussing about this. So he told me, he said, take a look at the 18th chapter. There is a set of verses in the 18th chapter which clearly talk about the different outcomes of the actions. So I'll just tell you a gist of that. So in the 18th Adhyaya, I think verse 13, 14, 15 in that series, he says there are 5 factors that determine the outcome of any action we do. One is the individual who is doing the action. So if the 2 different people perform the same action, we'll get 2 different results. The second thing is circumstance. The same person performing the same action under different circumstances will give a different result. So the individual, the circumstances, the resources available, the tools available to this individual, the manner in which the person uses the tools. Finally, fifth is unknown factor, or what we call some destiny or fate, or act of God, something we can't control. So there are 5 factors that determine an outcome, and this is something that all of us have experienced, right? You can testify this with your own experience, that individual is important, the situation is important, the available resources are important, the manner in which the individual uses the resources, and unknown factors. So knowing that all these factors determine the outcome of an action, you don't have complete control over the outcome. This is what he's trying to say in this verse, that you can only control your action. Now, what I want to do right now, I can control, but I cannot control the outcome, because that will mean that you are God. You have omnipotence, that you can control the outcome of every action. That means you are a super guy, in which case you don't need Bhagavad Gita. But for everybody else who is not God, you need to realize that you can control only what you are doing. You can't control the outcomes. Therefore, it is counterproductive to work only keeping in mind the result, because we can't be so sure about the result. So we trying to take up certain action only with the focus on a certain result is counterproductive. At the same time, one should not become lazy and say, okay, anyway, I can't control the results, so I will just do nothing. So don't be lazy. That's what he's saying in the 4th line. Now, because you can't control the result, it doesn't mean you should not work, which is what he's saying. So what should you do? You should undertake work, which you will see again in other places in the Gita. He says you undertake work that is most suited to your abilities. You undertake work that you are passionate about. Put all the efforts to get the result that you want. But don't be always looking at the destination. You look at the present moment. Involve in your activity right now. Because if you are constantly worried about the future, worried about the result, that will jeopardize action undertaken today. That's what he's trying to say by saying ma karma phala hetur bhuhu. So don't be bent upon this particular result, because the result may not come the way you want it. The final outcome will be something unexpected. This doesn't mean that it will be totally unrelated, because there are 5 factors, out of which 4 of them are somewhat under your control. But the 5th factor is not under your control at all. So therefore, the result will be definitely in line with your efforts, but don't focus only on the result, because that will jeopardize your efforts itself. So this is a very, very beautiful verse, because he captures so much of information in just 4 lines. One is you don't have control over the result, you have only control over the action. Then he says, because you don't have control over the results, don't be motivated only by the results. And then he says, because you can't control the result, don't become lazy. So be active. At the same time, don't be obsessed with the result. Focus on the present, focus on what you can control. So karmanyeva adhikaraste.
कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते.
Oh, somebody else. Very good, Srihari. Ma phaleshu kadachana.
मा फलेषु कदाचन.
Ma karma phala hetur bhuhu.
मा कर्मफलहेतुर्भूः.
Ma te sangostva karmani.
मा ते सङ्गोऽस्त्वकर्मणि.
Then he goes on to say, thank you. Yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. Work with a balanced mind, having given up all attachments. And this sort of equanimity is karma yoga. He says, Dhananjaya, sangam tyaktva, having given up attachments, siddhya siddhyoho, siddhi asiddhayoho, samaha bhutva, siddhi asiddhi, what is attained, what is yet to be attained, samaha bhutva, making them treating them equally. Yogastha karmani kuru. So work being established in yoga with a balanced mind. Samatvam yoga uchyate. This is like a sutra, very beautiful line. Equanimity is yoga. Samatvam yoga uchyate. So this sort of equanimity which comes with a balanced mind is called karma yoga. So yogastha kuru karmani. What he's saying is work with being established in yoga, which means work with a balanced mind. What is the meaning of balance here? What is achieved, what is yet to be achieved? Both these things treated the same way. So that means what? You are, whether you are already accomplished it, siddhi, what is the past? Asiddhi is something in the future, yet to be accomplished. So both the past and the future you treat the same way. You don't have to be overjoyed about the past. Oh, I have accomplished all these things. I am a great guy. You don't have to be having that sense of superiority, or you need not have a sense of inferiority. Oh my God, I have not accomplished this. I don't have this. I don't have that. I have to somehow, do this thing and get this to this point. So not worrying about the past and the future. Siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva, treating them the same. Focusing on the present. Yogastaha kuru karmani. So how do you focus on this thing when you can give up your attachments to what you have accomplished and the what you have yet to accomplish? So when accomplishment leads to certain kind of pride and a desire for accomplishment lead to certain kind of greed or certain kind of inadequacy. Right? So in both the cases, there is a certain feeling which is not good for your mental state. So therefore, you give up these attachments and focus on your work. And this is what, we find this in so many places, that a fear of the failure in the future and gloating over the successes of the past, both these things are counterproductive. They are not helping us in this present moment. If we can temporarily forget about our goal and about our past and focus entirely on our work, lot more can get done. So that's when that kind of balance is exactly what is karma yoga. Is that kind of samatvam yoga uchyate. Here yoga must be taken as karma yoga, where working without attachments, focused on the present moment, without thoughts of the past or the future. This is karma yoga. Yogastha kuru karmani.
Yogastha kuru karmani.
Sangam tyaktva dhananjaya.
Sangam tyaktva dhananjaya.
Siddhya siddhyoh samo bhutva.
Siddhya siddhyoh samo bhutva.
Samatvam yoga uchyate.
Samatvam yoga uchyate.
Then he says, Durena hyavaram karma, buddhi yoga dhananjaya, buddhau sharanamanvichha, kripanaha phala hetavaha. Action guided by selfish interest is far inferior to action guided by wisdom. Seek refuge in that wisdom. Pitiable are those who have their eye on the result. Dhananjaya, buddhi yogat hi karma durena avaram, buddhau sharanam anvichha, phala hetavah kripanaha. Now this verse is not very clear. We have to understand it in the context. If you take the letter of this verse, it is not, especially the first half, it is not very clear. Now durena is like by far. Avaram is like inferior or lower. Buddhi yogat, or that is like from buddhi yoga or than buddhi yoga. He, indeed, karma, action. So we have to understand. So here it's not very clear. He says buddhi yogat hi karma durena avaram. So when compared to Buddhi Yoga, karma is far inferior. That's literally what he's saying. But what is he intending to say? When we look at the few of the other verses in the second chapter, we have to make sense of this verse. This is one of the verses which is not very clear in the first reading. You don't catch the meaning of it. What he intends to say is that action that is guided by selfish interest, action that is done when by thinking about the past accomplishment, by thinking about the future possibilities, that work which is stained by this sort of selfish interest and other thoughts is far inferior to action guided by wisdom. And what is the action guided by wisdom? Is the action where we do it with complete immersion, with the feeling that this is what I have to do. This is aligned to my nature. This is aligned to dharma, and this is what I have to do now. So this is action guided by wisdom. So this is what the import of this verse is. Then he says, Buddhau sharanam anvichha. So take refuge in that wisdom, in that buddhi. You take refuge. And phala hetavaha kripanaha. Pitiable are those who have their eye on the result. Now, this is a very strong statement. Does it mean that we should not have any goals? In all our schools and colleges and corporate world, we say, oh, you have to set your goals, 5-year goal and 1-year goal. Where do you see yourself in 6 months, and where do you see yourself in 2 years, and short-term and long-term goals? All these things you're doing. So is Krishna making fun of them, saying you're all pitiable? Kripana phala hetava. What he's trying to say is, when somebody is only goal-oriented and not at all bothered about the present, then it becomes a pitiable existence. If somebody is always, whether it's in office, whether it's at home, whether it is in on a holiday, whether you are in a board meeting, you're always talking about deadlines, then what is the point of life? You get drained out. So what he's saying is, if you are always going to focus on the result, then your work will get affected. So even goal setting is important. Here in when it comes to life, the life goal has been very clearly set. There is no need to set goal. The life goal has been set by our ancestors. The life goal is to be happy, to attain moksha. Moksha, like I said, when you are alive, if you are attaining moksha, or what we call as Jivan Mukti, means forever being in a state of peace and joy. That is what is the ultimate goal. So the goal has been set. Then there are different ways to reach that goal, which is all the discussion which is happening. This is in the case of the ultimate, when it comes to life. But in our day-to-day work also, goal setting is a matter of a few minutes. Okay, I want to reach here at this point of time. You put the thing on your GPS, you enter the location, you put it, and that's all. Now, if you are always, when you are driving your car or your motorcycle or whatever, you're always thinking about the destination, you will not see the pothole in front of you. You will not see the traffic signal. You will not see what's the vehicles in front of you. So once you have set the destination, you have to go there. That should be at the back of your mind. That's all. But in the front of your, vision and your entire concentration, your awareness, your attention should be on the work at hand. That is what he's trying to say. He's not saying don't set goals, or he's not saying that results are not important. What he's saying is, if somebody is always thinking about something to be achieved, it's a pitiable condition. It's sad. You're always thinking, when will I reach this place? When will I reach this place? Your journey itself is going to be destroyed. If you are enjoying the scenery as you drive, I have to reach there. I will eventually reach there. If there's a traffic jam or if there is a trouble or something, don't worry. It may take another 15 minutes. I will get there. But why should I make these 15 minutes also miserable? I can enjoy these 15 minutes by listening to a podcast or some music, or just observing people around me. I have a choice to make these extra 15 minutes more meaningful, or fill it up with, I have not yet reached, and be in a state of agitation. This is what he calls as being, it's pitiable to see people who are obsessed with the result. Durena hyavaram karma.
दूरेण ह्यवरं कर्म
Buddhi yoga dhananjaya. Buddhi yoga dhananjaya.
बुद्धियोगात् धनञ्जय
Buddhau sharanamanvichha.
बुद्धौ शरणमन्विच्छ
Kripanaha phalahetavaha.
कृपणाः फलहेतवः
Buddhi yukto jahatiha. Ubhe sukrita dushkrite. Tasmad yogaya yujyasva. Yoga karmasu kaushalam. So, endowed with that wisdom, one remains unaffected by both good and bad outcomes in this life. Therefore, act in the spirit of Karma Yoga, which is a smart approach to work. Buddhi yuktaha sukrita dushkrite ubhe iha jahati. Tasmat yogaya yujyasva. Karmasu kaushalam yogaha uchyate. Is to be added. So buddhi yuktaha, endowed with this buddhi, endowed with this wisdom, sukrita dushkrite, good and bad, favorable outcomes and unfavorable outcomes, ubhe, both, iha jahati, he is unaffected or he abandons or he is untouched by both good and bad outcomes. So remember, person who is obsessed with result will be very, very disheartened when he doesn't get the result that he wants. Somebody who is very obsessed with, cracking a certain exam or, getting this particular result, when the result doesn't come on the lines expected, he is disheartened. Whereas somebody who thinks this is a great opportunity for me to learn, let me learn all these subjects and I'll go write the exam. Even if he fails in the examination, he will think, oh, I spent so much of time learning so many things, it is going to hold me in good stead in the future. So therefore, whether it is a favorable or unfavorable outcome, they don't get agitated by it, provided they have focused on karma and not on phala. I often use this, so we'll just cover this verse. Tasmat yogaya yujyasva. Therefore, act in the spirit of yoga, in the spirit of karma yoga. Karmasu kaushalam yoga. So, karma yoga is a smart approach to work because it is insulating you from the possible outcomes, good or bad outcomes. So I always use this example of kids playing football in the summer vacations. It's a beautiful metaphor for all of us. When they have holidays, kids are always so happy. They, on their own accord, they will wake up early in the morning. They will run to the playground, and the whole day they are playing football or whatever, cricket, tennis, something with their friends. Because they're enjoying themselves so much, nobody cares about how many goals were scored. Nobody keeps a tab. There is no referee. There is no, statistician to say, oh, this guy is the top, scorer, and this team has won the most number of matches. None of these things matter. They just enjoy. After one game, if somebody loses, somebody wins, they shake hands. Hey, you did a good job. And then next game with a new team, let's play again. Let's go for the next round. So at the end of the day, they come back exhausted and they had a great time. They just have some food and go to bed. They don't bother how many matches I won, how many goals I scored, whether this guy was better, nothing. So this is such a great way for us to lead our own lives, where we are doing things we love to do. We are focused on our activities. We are not keeping tabs about many of the unnecessary things in our life. So that's why it's a smart approach to work, that focusing on the moment, focusing on your what you can control, not being worried about the result, and not being obsessed about the past as well. Oh, I have done all these things, I'm so and so. When you think about that, when that ego is there, it is occupying part of your concentration and your awareness. When you're thinking about the future, it is occupying part of your focus and concentration. So what is available for you to actually work becomes diminished. When all these things are forgotten, You have 100% of your mental energy and focus available for work, which means you can work so much more. So this is again, this yoga karma so kaushalam is also like a very famous sutra. Okay, so buddhi yukto jahatiha
बुद्धियुक्तो जहातीह
ubhe sukrita dushkrite
उभे सुकृतदुष्कृते
tasmad yogaya yujyasva
तस्माद्योगाय युज्यस्व
yoga karmasu kaushalam.
योगः कर्मसु कौशलम्
कर्मजं बुद्धियुक्ता हि फलं त्यक्त्वा मनीषिणः जन्म बंध विनिर्मुक्ताः padam गच्छन्त्यनामयम्. So he says, with a balanced mind, the wise people renounce their interest in the results of their action. Freed from the bondage of birth, they reach a faultless state. बुद्धियुक्ताः हि मनीषिणः कर्मजं फलं त्यक्त्वा जन्म बंध विनिर्मुक्ताः अनामयं पदं गच्छन्ति. So buddhiyuktaha, with endowed with this wisdom, with a balanced mind, manishinaha, the wise people, karmajam phalam, the result born of action, karmajam phalam tyaktva, having renounced, when they give up thoughts about the results of the action and they are focused entirely on their work, what happens is that janma bandha vinirmuktaha, they get freed from this bondage of birth and death. When somebody can lead their life consistently focused on the moment and not worrying about the past, not worrying about the future, then naturally they reach this faultless state. Anamayam padam gachanti. They reach a faultless state and they are freed from the bondage of birth. It is only this very, very fundamental instinct of desire and fear that keeps us human, keeps us bound to this body. The moment we can get rid of this fear and desire and anxiety about the future or gloating over the past, that's in a sense a kind of mukti. So this is what he's saying. With that wisdom, with that balanced mind, a wise person doesn't worry about the results. This does not mean that he is or he or she is being heedless. Let whatever happen, I will just do whatever I want. I don't care about the consequences. That is not what he's saying here. Because the fundamental understanding is this person will tread the path of dharma. So when he says buddhi yukta, with a balanced mind, with buddhi, with wisdom, wisdom by definition means that he is treading the path of dharma. And when somebody is treading the path of dharma, then naturally they are also aware of the consequences. So they are doing something that will not cause harm to other people. They don't intend harm and they are taking care of what they are doing, but they are not affected by the results. They are not going to be shaken if there is a negative result. They are not going to be overjoyed if there is a positive result. They are focused on work. They are focused on the present. So this is what it means. One should not mistake that, oh, you are not bothered about the consequences of your action. Definitely, they are doing things responsibly. They are working with awareness. And if you work with awareness, you will be definitely reaching a state which is better because all your energies are focused on executing the present action well. So such people reach a anamayam padam, a faultless state, a state which is very peaceful and it takes them out of the bondage of birth and death. Karmajam buddhi yuktahi
कर्मजं बुद्धियुक्ता हि
phalam tyaktva manishinaha
फलं त्यक्त्वा मनीषिणः
janma bandha vinirmuktaha
जन्मबन्धविनिर्मुक्ताः
padam gacchantyanāmayam.
पदं गच्छन्त्यनामयम्
यदा ते मोह कलिलं व्यतितरिष्यति तदा गन्तासि निर्वेदं श्रोतव्यस्य श्रुतस्य च. So when your intellect transcends the thickets of delusion, you will go beyond what has been heard, what is to be heard. Yada te buddhihi moha kalilam vyatitarishyati tada shrotavyasya shrutasya cha nirvedam gantasi. Yada, when te buddhihi, your intellect, moha kalilam, the kind of thickets or the forests of delusion. So moha is delusion, obsession. When your intellect transcends this thicket, because moha is like all encompassing. We don't see the reality when we are covered by moha. For example, you're obsessed with a person, right? When you are, they say, infatuated, somebody who's newly engaged or newly married or in the early stages of their relationship, you can see no fault with your girlfriend or boyfriend. They are perfect in every way, right? The moha for that individual completely covers your eyes to their faults. Because if you can see their faults, then you may not even have fallen in love with them. Because you are not able to see their faults, you are completely engulfed with that. It is like going in a dense forest where the light is not at all seen. In some Amazon rainforest, when you're going, even in noon time, you don't sometimes see the sun. It is such a thick canopy of trees. Like that, moha is something which will cover your eyes. And you will be surprised when some things don't work, or later on when you observe that this person was behaving in this manner, you will be surprised, how come I didn't see this? Because your eyes are covered with eyes, and not physical eyes, of course. Your mental eye is covered by moha, which is why you couldn't see the shortcomings. Whereas the same situation, if your friend is fallen in love with a girl or boy who is like really not the right person, you can see it so clearly. You tell your friend, hey, this girl is not for you, man. This is, why are you going behind her? She will just take your money, whatever. This fellow is not for you. He's going to take your money and go, whatever, right? When it's happening to somebody else, and it's like you see this ill-suited match, it's so evident to you. But in your own case, when we are engulfed by moha, we just fail to see what is in front of us. So that's why he's using this beautiful example or analogy of the thicket, or the forest, or something which is covering. So when the intellect goes beyond that, when the intellect transcends the thickets of delusion, you will go beyond what has been heard and what is to be heard. Now, what has been heard, what you have, things which are, in the past, what might distract you, and what is yet to be heard, you will not be worried about these things. Again and again, this set of shlokas are talking about being objective, focusing on the present, and not being obsessed about the past and the future. Yada te moha kalilam
यदा ते मोहकलिलं
buddhirvyatitarishyati
बुद्धिर्व्यतितरिष्यति
tada gantasi nirvedam
तदा गन्तासि निर्वेदं
श्रोतव्यस्य श्रुतस्य च.
श्रोतव्यस्य श्रुतस्य च.
So vyatitarishyati, kind of crossing over, like you cross over an ocean, cross over something. So you are going above that. So you are breaking free from this delusion and obsession. Then he says, Shruti vipratipannate yada sthasyati nischala samadhavachala buddhis tada yogam avapsyasi. Unmoved by the things that you may hear, when your intellect stands still and is firmly fixed in meditation, you will attain yoga. Yada te shruti vipratipanna buddhi samadhau nischala achala sthasyati tada yogam avapsyasi. Yada, when te shruti vipratipanna, the confusing things that you may hear, buddhihi, your intellect, samadhau, in samadhi, in which is very, very firmly standing in a state of meditation. Achala, nischala, both mean the same thing. This is just enforcing the same idea. Unmoved, unshaken, absolutely still in a state of firmly fixed in meditation. Sthasyati, it is established. Tada, then yogam avapsyasi, then you will attain yoga. So there are so many things which can distract you, right? Lot of confusing things that are around you. When you are unmoved by that, when your intellect stands still, and it's firmly fixed in meditation, you shall attain yoga. So in today's world, if you want to use the same this thing, when your phone is switched off or put on silent, when your internet connection is switched off, and your computer screens are all switched off, and you're sitting with a book, or you're sitting with your music practice or your dance practice or with some serious thing, and you're cut off from the world. So all these distractions are removed, and you're established in that one activity of painting or writing or music, whatever you are focused, then you attain yoga. Whereas if you are going to be moved by all the confusing things, the moment you start your music practice, you are ting, some notification or something on the screen lights up, or somebody is calling you something, you cannot do music practice or dance practice or painting, whatever, anything you want to seriously pursue, even if you are preparing your speech for a board meeting the next day, or whether you are you're writing composing a poem, or you are working on your Surya Namaskara workout, whatever you're doing, doesn't matter, right? Anything you're doing with, you're dead serious about it, then you should be dead to the world in all other senses. You should switch off everything and completely be free of distraction. So this is very valuable in today's world, where you're unmoved by the confusing things and the distractions and everything. When your intellect stands still and firmly established in meditation, and samadhi is focused on any activity, where complete focus is on this activity, then you will attain yoga. So yoga is not just only like doing some asana and Surya Namaskara. Yoga here is like a mental and the kind of connection. Yoga is a union of body and mind, where your body, mind, awareness, all these things work as one unit, not distracted by anything else. Shruti vipratipannate.
Shruti vipratipannate.
Yada sthasyati nischala.
Yada sthasyati nischala.
Samadha vachala buddhihi.
Samadha vachala buddhihi.
Tada yogam avapsyasi.
Tada yogam avapsyasi.
Now Arjuna is having a question. So this is all until the 53rd, he has told all these different things. So he started with Ashocyan Anvashocastvam. From there, he spoke in great detail about the Atma. Then he spoke about the practical problems of withdrawing from war. In the last few verses, he has spoken about the nature, how one should work, how one should cultivate the mind, and the kind of practical tools for us to focus and work. Now, what happens if somebody does this? Like if somebody follows these things, he becomes a wise person. So Arjuna now wants to know give me more details about such a person. People who are focused, people who are wise, people who are balanced. I want to know more about them. And Arjuna says, Arjuna uvacha, sthita prajnasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshava sthita dihi kim prabhasheta kim asita vrajeta kim. So how do you describe a person of steady insight? How do you describe a sthita prajna, one whose wisdom is balanced, one whose awareness is firmly fixed? How do you describe this person? How does such a person with a steady intellect speak? A sthita dhihi. How does he speak? How does he sit? How does he go about leading his life? So I want to know what are the traits of this person who is balanced. So Arjuna uvacha Keshava samadhistas sthita prajnasya ka bhasha sthitadihi kim prabhasheta kim asita kim vrajeta. So samadhistasya, one who is established in samadhi, who is balanced, sthita prajna, a person of steady wisdom. How does he speak? Ka bhasha. How does he converse with people? How does he sit? Kim asita, kim vrajeta. How does he go about leading his life? What is the daily life, or what is the nature of this person? So when you come across somebody you idolize, some person you are greatly inspired by, what do you want to know? What do they do? What do they eat? What is their daily routine? What is their practice regime? How does he get this? So if you are in a particular field and you meet a master in your field, let's say music, because I'm in music, often that comes up in my deliberations. Now, when I meet a great musician, I will naturally ask, so how do you practice? What is your practice regime? How do you approach a raga? When you learn a new composition, how much you practice before it goes on stage? What did your guru teach you? And all these kind of things, we are so curious to know about the little details about their daily life, because those are the things which will inspire us to improve our quality of life. We have to make small changes in our daily life so that we can reach a higher level. So that's exactly what he's trying to ask here. So sthita prajnasya ka bhasha, and kim prabhasheta, kim asita. How does he sit? How does he walk? How does he stand? What does he say? What are his words? Tell me more about the ideal person. So here Arjuna has started off this, has asked this question. Arjuna uvacha
Arjuna uvacha
स्थितप्रज्ञस्य का भाषा
स्थितप्रज्ञस्य का भाषा
समाधिस्तस्य केशव
समाधिस्थस्य केशव
स्थितधीः किं प्रभाषेत
स्थितधीः किं प्रभाषेत
किम् आसीत व्रजेत किम्.
किम् आसीत व्रजेत किम्.
So he's set this question in motion, asking about a sthita prajna. Then from the 55th shloka, next shloka onwards till the end of this chapter, the entire discussion is on the nature of this individual, what he does, how he leads his life, and the different facets of a wise person. And he goes into certain details. Now that is one set, so I'll keep that for tomorrow. And with that, I think we will try and, depending on the time available, we'll try to complete it tomorrow or latest by Friday. And the rest of the Friday session we can dedicate to revisiting the second chapter. The second chapter is very, very beautiful, and it contains so much of the Gita wisdom that for whatever reason, if you want to stop studying Gita, you have to stop after second chapter, because if you stop after the first chapter, you are only going to be left with confusions, because Krishna has not even come to the scene. So if you, for whatever reason, if you are just unable to spend time, then just read the second chapter, review the second chapter, and keep that in your active memory. That will suffice. It's got the best of it has got a lot of wonderful elements of the Gita, one of the finest chapters. Now, like I said, the conversation between Krishna and Arjuna is a conversation between two friends. It is not designed as a textbook. Therefore, some chapters are interesting, some chapters may not be as interesting, because it's a discussion. Through the course of a discussion, there'll be some things which are very, very exciting, some which may be just only relevant to some people. So this in the YouTube videos nowadays, they have this thing called most replayed. So if people have become so low on attention that they can't even watch a 7-minute video, because 7 minutes is long time. So they look at the most replayed portion. 6:52 to 7:03 is the most replayed. So they will quickly go there. And so like that second chapter will be the most replayed portion, because it's got so much of wonderful content here. He discusses about practical aspects of the war. He discusses about soul. He discusses about focusing on the present moment and not being worried about the results. Then he has an entire discussion, which we'll come to tomorrow, on the nature of the Sthita Prajna and the Sthita Prajna Lakshana. This is one of those sets of shlokas which are very, very valuable, and they give us a wonderful insight into the mind of Krishna, and they are very handy. So, like I said, if you are not able to read the whole thing, you can just take some of these verses and memorize it or keep it in active memory, and try to implement it. That immediately pushes your standard of life to a higher level. So with this, I think we will look at the Sthita Prajna Lakshana tomorrow. Let me just see if there are any comments or questions. Okay. So there's one question. Very nice. So Mamata has a question. How did Arjuna come up with the word Sthita Prajna while Krishna has not yet mentioned it? So one thing across the Gita we see is that there is a lot of knowledge and information available to Krishna and Arjuna, which is common in their era. Okay, so when we come to the 10th chapter also, we'll see a lot of things Arjuna already knew. He's already familiar with these ideas. So Arjuna is not a complete novice who has no introduction into anything. He is already familiar with some of the concepts. He knows what is Atma. That's why all the explanation that I am giving you, it is not, some of them are not in the Gita. Krishna is not explaining what is the meaning of Atma, what is the meaning of yoga. That there's a short session I did before we started the second chapter. Arjuna did not need all those things. Krishna did not tell him, see, the meaning of dharma is this. There are 4 purusharthas. Arjuna knows all these things. It's part of his education. So there are a lot of things that he's already familiar with, and that comes up in the discussion. So the concept of Sthita Prajna, concept of a person of steady intellect, is probably known well at that time, and he's just bringing up and connecting the dots when Krishna says focus on the work and not on the result. You can't control the outcomes of your action. You be focused on the present moment instead of the past and the future and all these things. He says, this is the nature of a person who is Sthita Prajna. So tell me more about such an individual. So that's the explanation. Zoom user, I don't know who this is, but I've always been curious about why this vast, beautiful explanation of how to lead life is logistically placed in a battlefield in between 2 warring armies, where there is no time for thinking but to take action. There is urgency. This is again another very good question. What is the purpose of putting this great discourse about human life in the middle of a battlefield? There's an old joke. Doctor, heart surgeon, has a car and it's under repair, and he takes it to the mechanic. The mechanic, is repairing the vehicle, and he's having a light banter with the doctor. He says, "Doctor, you're a heart surgeon. What you do is you take the there are blocks in the artery, and you take it out and you do a bypass surgery or something. I do the same thing with the car. Some things pipes are blocked out, and there is some surgery need to be done. I'm doing the same thing with the car, but how come that you are making hundreds and thousands of dollars where I get like $20? And the doctor says, yes, what you say is correct. Whatever you're doing is very similar to what I'm doing, but you try to do when the engine is running. So that's the difference between a mechanic and a doctor. The heart is running, it's beating, and in the middle of that, you have to do it. So in life also, we have to change ourselves. We have to work as we are running forward in life. We cannot say, wait, let me become Sthita Prajna. So all my troubles and everything, please go away for 2 weeks. I will, cut away from everything. I will prepare myself and then come back. Life doesn't work like that, right? So in the middle of all these things, you have to do it. So it's a beautiful metaphor that in the middle of action, in the middle of life-threatening situation, he is giving this advice. Okay, so I think we are running out of time. So I'll take up some of these questions a little. I mean, in the beginning of the next class. Can I request you? I'm just taking a screenshot also, but can I request you to send me the questions by email if you don't mind? So there is a question by Ashok Nagendra Prasad Vedavyas and from Geeta Bali. So can I request you to send me the questions by email? And there's also another question from yesterday which I couldn't take it up, which I'll discuss in tomorrow's session. All right. Om Tat Sat. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.